Well, hello. My name is Ed, and I have known Bob and Tom and all these guys for over 40-some years. So I just like to begin by saying that if it wasn't for God's grace, mercy, and love, I won't be doing this recording and giving you my testimony, because I would have been dead and buried, and I would have been worm poop by now. And if it wasn't for God's love and grace, like I said, I would be buried, and I will be living and residing at 666 Lake of Fire Lane. Because when I was in this car accident, I almost lost my life, and I know I would have been in hell. You probably noticed that I have an accent. I was born in Argentina to a father who was born in Poland, and to a mother who was born in Italy. So as you can see, I'm a totally mixed up person. Blood, that is. And on June 6, 1961, it was the first day that my feet touched American soil. And I praise God for giving me the opportunity to live in the United States. That day, if I would have known what I know today, I would have dropped on my knees and thank God for the pleasure and the honor to live in this country. A country that God has shed His grace upon. A country that God has birthed. And I would have probably dropped on my knees, like I said, and then bent over and kissed the ground. Because I know where I came from. I grew up in southeastern Wisconsin, and I had a rough bringing up. My father has never, ever, ever told me he loved me. He never, ever, ever encouraged me much. He always cut me down. Now my mother, on the other hand, she always encouraged, and she showed great love and affection for me. As I was growing up, if I did anything wrong, or dirty up the wall, or bounced the wall off the wall, then my father just got through painting the wall. He would take the rubber hose and he would beat me. And if my mother didn't took the line, my father would take the dog chain and he would beat my mother with a dog chain. This is the kind of growing up I was brought up. Many times my father would put down my mother in every possible way in Polish. I learned at a young age all the Polish swearing words and all the derogatory statements that my father made to my mother, in front of me and my brother, in front of our friends and his friends and family members. He would just totally trash my mother. That I did not like. My father's hatred for the Jewish people was very, very strong. He considered Jewish people inferior. I heard at a young age how my father loved to turn the Jewish men and women over to the Nazis during World War II. He was trained as a police officer to profile, and he can spot a Jewish man or woman just by looking at him. And he would turn him over to the Nazis. Now I don't know if my father ever committed any crimes against the Jewish people, but the possibility do arise. Well, growing up in Racine, Wisconsin, before Christ, it was rough. I didn't get involved too much with drugs. I only smoked probably half a dozen joints. I did LSD once, and that scared the daylights out of me, so I never did LSD anymore. My whole goal was to play music, pick up chicks, and sleep with them. As to alcohol, I didn't get involved too much with that. Didn't like it, didn't like the taste, didn't like the smell, so I didn't get involved with that. I graduated from high school here, right here in Racine, and I remember on summer 1968, my brother was driving, I was a passenger in the car. Somebody pulled in front of us, we hit. My face hit the windshield. The windshield splattered all over the place. I came back and I ended up with many cuts to my face. This part of my face was cut like you take a piece of paper and you rip it. This is what happened here. And then the scar went all the way up to 1/8 of an inch below my temple. I was rushed to the hospital, and I remember some doctor or somebody in the emergency room taking tweezers and pulling glass out of my face, digging right into my face, and it was painful. Somebody says to me, we'll shoot in you with some happy juice and you'll be in La La Land. The next thing I remember is waking up in the recovery room. Doctor comes by and he says, you're a lucky young man. If the cut would have raised 1/8 of an inch further up, it would have cut your temple and you would have been bled to death. If you didn't bleed to death, you probably would have been a vegetable or you would have been having mental problems. After 2 or 3 days in intensive care, I was put in my room and I spent another 7 or 8 days recovering. So I spent a total of about 10 days in the hospital. During the week that I was in my room, my mother happened to have back surgery and she was bedridden. And she was on the same floor that I was, but 2 or 3 doors down from me. And about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, I was cold. And I kept pressing the button for the nurse to come and close the window and put some blankets. But for about 45 minutes, nobody showed up. And I kept pressing and I was freezing and I was very, very cold. It was very cold at night. So you know how mothers are, they have a sixth sense. My mother sensed there was something wrong. She got out of bed, crawled on her hands and knees, down out of her room, down the hallway, and came to my room. And at the door she says, what's the matter, Ed? And I says, I'm cold. Nobody's coming to close the door and put any blankets. She crawled through my room, got herself up, and closed the window. By then, a nurse came by, and my mother is a very gentle person, but this is the first time I ever see my mother very, very angry. Well, they closed the window and put a blanket on me, and then I was fine. I was let out of the hospital, and from that point, for about a year and a half or so, I had many reconstruction surgeries on my face. Now you gotta note that I had 325 stitches on my face. And it was during Halloween, so if there was a party for me to go to, I would never need a mask, because I had a built-in one. Well, they went on for I spent another 30 days in the hospital total getting my face reconstructed. And every time they did a surgery in my face would swell up and I would be black and blue. Well, how can a guy go to school and finish high school with a face like that? Well, I stayed home, I got my assignments, and I made it through high school. I graduated from high school, and my graduation day, I decided that for the first time in my life, I'm going to get drunk. And I got drunk on Marsala wine, cooking wine. And I got sicker than a dog. But I wanted to get drunk one time. So I did. The third time they got spared my life was in 1968, at the height of the Vietnam War. They had a lottery system. I was number 18. But because I had the car accident and I was under doctor care, they couldn't draft me. If they did, I would end up in Vietnam. I wasn't an American citizen yet at that time, so I know I would have got all the garbage, all the hard work. But today I can say, praise the Lord for the car accident. I can thank God for the car accident. Even if I went through all the pain and all the inconvenience and all the cuts on my face, I can say, thank you, Lord, for the car accident. And I did that. And I remember one time I was saying, Lord, thank you for that car accident, and I praise you for that. Thank you for that blessing. Then I was very quiet, and I can just barely hear the Lord saying, it was my pleasure, Ed. Well, later on that summer, it's 1969, and this is an important factor, my friend Jeff invited me to a party. So I went to the party. I was at that time 19 years old, and I seen a lot of young kids under 18 there, smoking marijuana, drinking beer and hard stuff, and doing other drugs. The guys and girls were going in and out of my Jeff's bedroom, so I knew they weren't playing tiddlywinks, but they were going back in and out. Something in me said, get out of that place because it's going to get raided. So I left the party. I found out a couple of weeks later that about an hour after I left, the police came and everybody got arrested. I just left in time. I know at that time I didn't know the Lord, but I know that God convinced me and motivated me to leave. So I did. Well, we went on through and through for this. Sometimes, in October of 1969, I was sitting on the hood of my car with a friend, and it was the Other Side Coffee House. It was run by Youth for Christ. And I said, well, what is that there? And my friend said, oh, that's something Jesus type of place to go to. So I decided to go there. Well, I never left after that. But the whole month of October, November, December, I helped out and I started to listen to the gospel. But I was too proud to ask specifically. But I started listening and positioning myself in listening distance by making sure that nobody noticed that I was listening to the gospel, because I was proud. I used to smoke cool cigarettes to prove it, and I used to go outside and smoke my cigarettes and come back inside and listen to the gospel. Well, this went on December and January, and sometimes in February 14th, I was going to college, and as I was walking into my classroom, I see Jeff approach me, the guy that I was in a party that summer before. And he's coming towards me, and he's wearing a blue shirt with a preacher's collar. And I said, Jeff, what are you wearing that crazy outfit for? He said, well, I got saved 3 months ago, and God called me to preach. I said, oh, that's great. Well, I said, I got to go to class. So as I was walking to my class, I knew what to do. So I said, Lord, come into my heart, forgive me all of my sins, and I believe in you. And then I walked to my class. There was February 14th, 1970, at 11:30 in the morning. I kind of find it exciting that God chose February 14th, a day that we say is the day of love. By God being love, He gave me that day to come to know Him. Well, that was some 44 years ago. Since then, God put me in a Bible college. I went to Bible college. I graduated from Bible college 2.5 years after I committed my life to the Lord. At Bible college, I enrolled, and I remember paying for my classes, going to my room. Didn't know anybody in the whole school. I was the only one in the whole Bible school that was saved for 7 months. All my classmates were saved, probably 10 years more, and all my classmates been to church since their mother carried them in their womb. I never had that pleasure. Well, I didn't know anybody at all in the whole school. I walked out on the campus, and there was a volleyball game going on. Somebody yelled, hey, we need somebody on this side. So I started playing volleyball. Well, in volleyball you change positions, and I happened to be in the middle by the net. And I turned around who's serving the ball, and lo and behold, this petite, blonde, blue eyes, Swedish Norwegian young lady standing in front of me. This young lady has never been on a date, never kissed another guy, never held hands, not knowing at that moment that this young lady has been saved since she was 4 years old. She was 9 years old, not knowing that all her mother, her father, all her uncles and aunts and grandma and grandpa knows the Lord. And then God does something miraculous. He says, I have chosen her to be your wife. What can I say except, okay, Lord, thank you. And then he says, I suggest that you memorize what she's wearing. Because when you propose to her, she's going to ask you. Well, I did. 6 months later, when I asked her to marry me, she asked me what she was wearing. And then she was so surprised that I knew exactly. It's because God told me to memorize what she's wearing. So I believe all my heart that God chooses your mate. And he brings her forward. For me as the guy, and for you as ladies, he'll bring the guy to you at the right time. So trust God, and he will direct your faith, and he will work in your life. I know there's more I can share, but time constraint. So thank you for listening.